Hello and welcome to Math Lessons with Linda. Today's topic is how to divide complex numbers, which is also known as rationalizing the denominator. So here's our problem today. 15 over 8 plus I. So the reason that we have to do anything with this problem at all is because remember what I represents. I represents the square root of -1. And in math lingo, we cannot have a radical in the denominator of a fraction. And since I represents a radical, we're going to have to figure out a way to move this I out of the denominator. When we did multiplication, one thing that we learned was that if we multiplied a complex number by its conjugate, all the imaginaries went away. I'm going to use that strategy here today. I'm going to multiply this denominator by 8 minus I. That's the conjugate. But if I'm going to multiply the denominator by something, I'm going to have to multiply the numerator by the same thing. This represents 1 over 1, and I haven't really changed the value of my fraction, just how it's looking. So for now, let's just hang on to our numerator and leave that 15 times the quantity 8 minus I. We're going to do some foiling down here in our denominator to see what happens with the imaginaries. So I've got 8 times 8, which is 64. 8 times minus I, which is minus 8I. Now this positive I times 8 is plus 8I, and then I times negative I is negative I squared. You will not have to do this every time if you remember that the conjugates make these imaginary middle terms cancel out. That's what we wanted to have happen. Now this I squared, remember that this is a -1. We can write that 1 in there. So this is -1. I squared is also a -1. So I have 64 from the beginning. Negative times negative makes this a +1. So my denominator is now a 65. So over here, my new denominator is 65. So I'm noticing that I have common factors between my 15 and my 65. I'm going to divide each of these by 5. So if I do that, I have a 3 here. If I divide 65 by 5, I get 13. So when I am finished, I'm going to leave my answer with the 3 outside, 8 minus I, all over 13. And notice that in my final answer, there is no imaginary in the denominator. If necessary, if your teacher would prefer, you can distribute that 3 through and get a 24 minus 3I over 13. And that is the same answer as what we had before. Still no imaginaries. That is how you divide two complex numbers.